With a pact of service, sacrifice, and many more, the Warlock is bestowed upon powers unbeknownst to the wisest mortals in the realm. Their patron, once but a distant presence, has their attention on you now. Today we are discussing the Pact Magic feature and how to optimize it. And here are the table of contents. We're going to start with talking about what is Pact Magic. We're going to compare Pact Magic with Spellcasting. And we're going to talk about how to optimize Pact Magic itself. So Pact Magic is as follows. Your arcane research and the magic bestowed on you by your patron have given you facility with spells. So similar to spellcasting, you get all the goodies. You get cantrips, you get spell slots, you get spells known, you get spellcasting ability using charisma, and you get spellcasting focus. Now, the specialty about Pact Magic is that you get less spell slots. You get 1 at level 1, you get 2 at level 2, you get 3 at level 11, and you get 4 at level 17. These spells are always cast at the highest spell levels, and they recharge on a short rest. Now, let's talk about how Pact Magic compares with spellcasting. So, for this part, I want you to imagine the Warlocks as more of an arcane marshal. Your spells are more scarce, but they're a lot more impactful. So you're basically using spells, like fighters using action search. You're going to use this as a clutch effect that turns the tides in a battle. Now on the other hand, spellcasting casters use spells more like a toolkit. The bigger the problem, the bigger the hammer. Usually they face the problems and find the right tools to solve the problem. Now, the part you have been waiting for, how to optimize Pact Magic. Now we're going to focus on the quality and the quantity of using your spells. Now for quality, you are going to choose spells, usually that can be upcasted, if these spells are below your current spell levels. So for example, if you're using a level 1 Armor of Agavius, you're going to use it as a level 3 spells anyway. So being able to upcast means that the spell can be used in its optimal capacity. Now, you also want to focus on the impact a upcasting brings. Now, the best kind of upcasting is usually ones that gives you more targets. For example, Hold Person is a great use because every increase in spell level means an extra target. Now, the second type is about duration. Duration, for example, hacks. You get 1 hour at level 1, and you get more time at higher levels. Those are the kind of things that these spells can do. And there are one more type that is scaling damage. For example, Hellish Rebuke allows you to scale 1d10 per level of damage in fire. I believe the best type is always to have more targets, but there are exceptions. For example, there is a spell called Cloud of Daggers that basically gives you guaranteed damage. It scales 2d4 per level, and it is still guaranteed damage on a small area, so it is very useful when the situation is correct. Now, I would also recommend you using spells that have lasting effects. I think the kind of spells that has the most impact are the ones that with the most devastating effects that can last for many turns. So Hypnotic Pattern at level 5 is a very good example. Kinetic Static is also a very good example. You can create damage like Fireball, but also have debuff that can last for 1 minute. And the key thing here is that you are always going to compare your use of spells with Eldritch Blast. Because let's be honest, you are going to use Eldritch Blast most of the time. And before every cast, there is an opportunity cost to ask yourself, should I be casting Eldritch Blast instead of using the spell itself? So every time you use a spell, be aware of that. Now in terms of the quantity, there are ways for you to increase the use of Pact Magic spells. So for example, you will have heard of a very popular multiclass called the Warlock. So Sorcerer basically allows you to use sorcery points and convert each other, converting Pact Magic spell slots into sorcery points. I'm going to talk about more about the Warlock later on at another video, but that is basically the idea of it, to allow you to get unlimited Warlock spell slots on a short rest. Now for your invocations, these are also very good for you because they provide you at-will spells like Silence Image, and you can get feats like Eldritch Adept to further increase your invocations. I will recommend you to choose your invocations very carefully because they are scarce in numbers, and these at-will spells are usually more utility based, and for a Warlock, I usually recommend you to go for more damage, more devastating effects. Leave the utility to the utility casters. Now at level 11, you're also getting Mystic Arcanum, which means that you can use spells above level 5. So you're gonna get 1 per level, level 6, 7, 8, and 9. These spells are very powerful, but you can also use them once per day per spell. So these are very important. You're gonna want to try to use the best spells you can get. For example, at level 6, I would recommend getting the Mass Suggestion spell. Lasts for 24 hours, affect 12 enemies, and they have a lasting effect without a save, unless taking damage from you or your friends. That kind of thing. So the most important thing here is to be patient, assess the situation, and treat your Pact Magic spell slots as a secret weapon. Don't spam spells, you don't have that option. This is why you have Eldritch Blast and the many customization you get for a Warlock, from Pact Boon, from invocations, from your subclass features, etc. Now, for some recommendation of using spells, again, I recommend against using utility because you don't have that many spell slots to use them. So you are the wild card of your party most of the time, and I think these are the best spells you can consider. Now, Armor of Agathis is a very good spell to upcast. It protects you from melee, and it protects you from your enemies. And you can use Hold Person. At level 2, it targets 1 target. At level 5, it is targeting 3 more, so it's very impactful. You are going to consider Cloud of Daggers, which I consider to be very underrated, but it has been more popular after Baldur's Gate 3, so that's a good thing. It is situational, has a small radius, but it is guaranteed damage. Now, summons are also very attractive. I would say that the undead summon is good, but there is a better one called Summon Greater Demon. So this spell is really fantastic because after losing concentration, the beast remains on the battlefield. So it really helps you, and again, focus on having spells that does lasting impact and spells that upcast to your current spell level, and you will basically be fine most of the time. Now also I would recommend taking counterspell, but when you are counterspelling, focus on spells that last for a long time that your enemy is trying to cast on your party. For example, you can use counterspell against Hypnotic Pattern, even Fireball, which has an instantaneous effect, but it can destroy your entire party. So assess the situation and cast your counterspell with care. And for higher levels, you can also look at spells like Banishment, Kinetic Static, etc. These are spells that again has great upscaling effects, and it has a good effect on its own. For subclasses, I'm not going to focus too much on this video, but there are some that I really like. I think the Hexblade is really good because having armor and shield is always good. And I like the Fiend Warlock because it helps you to get some temporary hit points, it helps you to survive some saves, and even some damage resistance, so those are always good. I think the Celestial is underrated because the Celestials allows you to have some healing capabilities to help your party. And you can also look at the Genie Warlock, which allows you to hover and fly for a little bit. It gives you some resistance to damage, and it buffs your Eldritch Blast. And there are so many great subclasses for the Warlock, even so-called the weaker ones. I really like the Fey Warlock, simply because you can escape from melee and become invisible. Or even a Great Old One Warlock, which allows you to simply communicate telepathically. The key thing about the Warlock, and by extension Pact Magic, is that you can get all the things you need through customization with the Warlock itself. So Pact Magic becomes your secret weapon. Build your Warlock based on what you want it to do, and your spells I guarantee you, if you build them with care, if you choose the best ones, the most impactful ones, and don't let FOMO get to you, Just be patient and choose the right situation. You are never going to feel the Pact Magic being so limited or scarce as others say. Even at like level 8 or level 10, which I think is pretty much the weakest level a Warlock can get, because they still only have 2 spell slots, but you are getting higher levels spells, right? So don't be worried at all for not casting a lot. That is not your job. And I will emphasize this because it's true. Just focus on being a good Warlock, blast away, be patient, and you will be able to achieve great effects using the Warlock that you want. And again, this is the video talking about Pact Magic. I really hope it helps you. It helps you to create the Warlock as much as I love building a Warlock for myself. And signing out, I hope you have fun and hope you enjoy the Warlock as much as I do.